Welcome to Retirement Ramblings. I'm Scott. On today's video, I'm going to talk about why I'm quitting the carnivore diet after 6 months. And I'm going to take you through my thinking on the matter, the lab results that I just got back at the end of 6 months, which weighed heavily on my decision, and what I'm going to be doing next. If that sounds interesting to you, please stick around. So on today's video, I'm going to talk about why I'm quitting the carnivore diet after 6 months. And this is not going to be a video poo-pooing on the carnivore diet. I'm going to step you through what I found that was super positive, the things that are negatives for me as a one-man guinea pig and may not be applicable to anyone else, but they are factually applicable to me. And so, just as someone, kind of giving a testimonial as to what's good, what's bad, what you should consider. That's all I'm trying to do. And again, this is one man's experience. Doesn't mean it's going to be yours, but at least I just want to share my results. So let me go through the positives. So first and foremost, and I'm going to look at my notes here to make sure I don't miss any. So first and foremost, I lost 37.4 pounds in 6 months on carnivore. So that's an average of 1.5 pounds per week over the 6-month period. I reduced my A1C, which was my primary objective in starting carnivore, by 34% from 8.5 to 5.6. So at the end of 6 months, I technically had reversed my type 2 diabetes, and I was in the quote-unquote normal range. Even though my goal was 5.5, which I didn't achieve, it still met the cutoff for being non-diabetic, just below the pre-diabetic rate of 5.7. I reduced my total cholesterol by 16.4%. And I know that cholesterol seems to be one of the things that people are concerned about on carnivore. Didn't make mine go up. Obviously, it went down by 16.4%. Went from 201 down to 168. In addition, my LDL cholesterol, the bad cholesterol, went down by 28.6% from 126 to 90. My HDL, or the good cholesterol, went up by 25.5% from 47 to 59. My triglycerides, that's the free-floating fat in your blood, went down by 38.4%. So that went from 159 down to 98. I improved my eyesight in as little as the first 2 weeks of being on carnivore. I improved my overall resting heart rate. I improved my blood pressure significantly, and I improved my liver enzymes, which, given that I don't have a gallbladder, is something that I focus on intently to make sure I don't end up with any kind of liver problems. So they're all the good things about being on carnivore. Now just a couple of the negatives, again, to try and be balanced here. So one, as anybody who's been following me throughout the journey knows, I've had increased skin issues, rosacea flare-ups, atopic dermatitis flare-ups. I had skin biopsies done to try and rule certain things out. No matter what I did, really, other than I ended up taking a month of Zyrtec once a day to see if it was a histamine intolerance. The Zyrtec made the itch go away, but the rash still stayed, although it got a little bit lighter. My sleep quality and duration went down. And when I say that, what I mean is my energy levels went up, so that was a positive, but the amount of sleep that I could get, no matter how much I wanted to sleep, went down, where I couldn't really get more than 4.5, maybe 5 hours tops of any kind of quality sleep, and then it was a toss and turn, until I just got frustrated and got out of bed. So that was, for me, a problem. I had, based on the blood work, which I'll go over with you guys in just a minute, I potentially got a vitamin deficiency, either folate, which is the most likely cause, or B12 during the time I was on the carnivore diet over the 6 months. So like I said, I'll go over the numbers with you in just a second, but fundamentally, the things that I used to get folate from, which is like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, those cruciferous vegetables, which obviously I'm not eating on carnivore, seem to make a big difference in my life. And so The reason I think it's folate is because a lot of the skin issues would be attributed to a folate deficiency, and one of the blood tests specifically indicates it's either going to be folate or vitamin B12 deficiency. And again, I'll show you that in a minute. The other thing, which goes contrary to what a lots of people talk about on carnivore, is my inflammation, body-wide inflammation, actually went up during carnivore. And, that's not my opinion. Based on blood work, that's what actually happened. And so, again, one man, I'm the guinea pig. How my body reacts to the food is going to be different than your body. So it just is what it is. And then the other thing, which is the reason that I'm going to stop doing carnivore and move towards still in what I'll say is a animal focused low carb diet. And I don't want to call it ketovore or paleo or some other name, because it's probably not going to follow any strict requirement for either one of those, because I'm going to tweak things based on what my body seems to handle properly. But I will be focused on keeping my carbs low and still be primarily animal based. But the carnivore diet, again, from the blood results, showed that I potentially ended up with negative impacts to my actual blood health and kidney issues. So the increased protein by having an all meat diet, and especially ending up doing the lion diet for the last 10 days of it, showed up in both urinalysis tests and in the actual blood tests for protein and the impact of protein actually on your blood. So I'm going to do some additional testing within the next 30 days to isolate where the problem is and try and correct it. But as a kind of a shorthand note, that's kind of where we are. Now I'm just going to step through some of the, again, blood results. I spent, over $600 on 24 blood tests to get a detailed baseline of where I stood. And I don't know if you can see, but you can see them, the black and blue on my arm, where they had to draw 7 vials of blood to be able to perform all the tests that I had done, so that I could, in fact, not have an opinion about this, but actually have quantifiable results that I could compare at pre-carnivore, 6 months on carnivore. I also have some interim ones at 3 months, but ultimately, at the end is what I care about. So here's some of the kind of the results that I have. So in addition to talking about my A1C at the beginning going down, my blood glucose went from 194 before carnivore down to 111 at the 6 month mark, which is a 42.8% decrease. We stepped through all the cholesterol and triglycerides. My liver enzymes all were good. So my AST improved by 30%. My ALT improved by 40.6%. My GGT was number 43 at 6 months. So all the liver enzyme tests, including the alkalized phosphatase, all of them were good. So and they were better after carnivore than before carnivore. So no negative impact on my liver function. My insulin at 6 months was 7.9. My C-peptide at 6 months was 2.86. And my DHEA sulfate was 65 at 6 months. All, in the good range, all showing that my liver's still producing, my pancreas is still producing the level of insulin needed to keep my blood sugar under control without being stressed. So again, carnivore helped the A1C and the blood glucose, and the liver processing, the pancreas processing the blood glucose. So all that was a super positive. My thyroid functions, I had tested. The T4 came in at 9.4, T3 free at 2.9, T3 total at 86, T3 reverse at 21. I had the thyroglobulin antibodies and the thyroid peroxide antibodies all tested, both came in negative. So overall, no thyroid or renal gland impacts caused by carnivore, so that all those statistics were positive. My vitamin D came at 38.7, so also no vitamin D deficiencies. Now some of the things that were problematic. So my blood urea nitrogen level before carnivore was a 13. At 6 months, it came in at 35. That's very high. That's a 169% increase, which is not positive. My serum creatine before carnivore was 0.93. At 6 months, it was 1.12. Again, a 20.4% increase, not positive. My bun to creatine ratio was 14 before carnivore and 31 after 6 months. Again, that's high and not positive. That increased by 93.75%. Calcium, which is good for your bones and whatever, it's listed as high at 10.4 after 6 months, but I'm not aware of what negative impacts having a little too much calcium could do. I haven't had time to research that, but it did come in out of range. All of my electrolytes, so sodium, potassium, chloride, they all stayed consistent, so no problems there on the carnivore diet. Carbon dioxide did increase by 13% from 9.2 to 10.4 milligrams per deciliter. Protein, obviously, went up by 17.9% since, doing mostly protein on the diet, from 6.7 to 7.9 at the end of 6 months. My albumin before carnivore was 4.6, and then 6 months was 5.1, so an increase of 10.9%. The thing that indicates the vitamin deficiency, which is homocysteine, that came in at 17.1, which indicates it's either a folate or B12 deficiency, and I can have a test on methylmalonic acid or MMA to verify which one it is. If that comes back high along with homocysteine, then it's a B12 deficiency. If it doesn't come back high, then it's folate, but it's going to be one of those two. And again, I'm betting on folate because all the things that I used to eat to get folate in my diet, I'm not eating. So that's what I'm guessing it is. My high sensitivity CRP also came in high at 5.9, and I'm going to retest that in a month. That would indicate that you would have some cardiovascular issue. The fact is, though, that I also had my ApoA, ApoB, and ApoAB ratio tested, and all of those came in a optimal range. So the recommendation from the lab is to do a retest after 10 days to see whether it was a false positive. So I'll be doing that. With regard to the blood screening, my white blood cell count increased 10% from 9.7 to 10.7 at the end of 6 months, which that didn't concern me near as much as the fact that my absolute lymphocytes, which are a certain form of white blood cells, came in at 4,901 at the end of 6 months, which that is problematic, and that will, make your spleen get enlarged. It'll inflame your lymph nodes under your armpits and elsewhere, and so, I am going to have that checked out further. Also, my red blood cells count went up just shy of 6%, from 5.62 to 5.95, and was marked as high. My hemoglobin went from 15.5 to 16.3, an increase of 5.2%. My hematocrit went up to only 2.7%, from 47.5 to 48.8. The other thing that concerned me was my platelet count went up 22.6%, from 208 to 255. And the reason that concerns me is the more platelets you have, the thicker your blood, the stickier your blood, give you a blood clot, give you a stroke. So those things, again, concerning, and I'm going to have them, checked out again here soon as I start to adjust my diet and lower the amount of protein that I'm consuming, while I add in some vegetables also to try and correct what I believe is going to be the folate deficiency. Ferritin, which is kind of a measure of iron, went up 67.9%. So from 134 before carnivore to 225 at 6 months. My total iron was 100 mcg per deciliter at 6 months. The iron saturation was 21%. The SED rate for the red blood cells at 6 months was 6, so all that was fine. The thing that wasn't fine was the total iron binding capacity. That came in at 476 mcg per deciliter, which is also high. So again, on the blood health components, there's a number of questions that I have that I'll, move forward, taking, additional actions to see if I can improve those. But net, the takeaway is carnivore was really positive for me with regard to the weight loss, getting my A1C under control, improving my liver health, among other things. And, obviously, no matter what program you do, there's some trade-offs. And just for me, now that I have the blood work back, and I see that I could be leaning towards down the road where you could have some form of anemia, which can also cause nerve damage problems if you don't have the right amount of folate. So again, I think it would be reasonably easy to correct by simply adding back some cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, like Brussels sprouts, things like that are still low carb, but yet can give me higher concentrations of folate than I have now. I'm going to do the retest I'll do the retest within 30 days and get the results back from that. If the tweaks that I made in my diet within those 30-day period doesn't address the issues that I'm concerned about, then I'll set up a follow-up with the doctor and see what alternate suggestions that they can make. But I'm hoping that it'll be a slight tweak to my diet that will get me where I need to go. So fundamentally, that's kind of where I am. Again, my plan for moving forward is to stay primarily animal-based, but to add back in, some amount of vegetables and carbohydrates. Still trying to maintain my level of carbohydrates low enough that it doesn't raise my overall blood sugar as I move forward, because I want to maintain and actually still get to my 5.5 goal. I started this week also, during the entire 6 months of carnivore, I've had a sedentary lifestyle. Like, I don't like exercising. It's not something that for me is fun. Like lots of other people like go work out at the gym or go do something that makes them feel better. I don't really get the high that you get from endorphins when you're working out or whatever. So I forced myself about 3 days ago to start walking an hour every morning when I get up. So I plan to continue doing that. I do know that by doing that, it immediately lowers my morning blood sugar by a significant amount, without medication. So that also gives me a way of potentially getting that number down to the 5.5 or lower that I really want it to be at. But I'm going to have some exercise will get added in as I move forward. I'm going to create a new sub channel, if you will, under this under Retirement Ramblings, that won't be called Going Carnivore in my playlist, but rather something like animal-based lifestyle, or some derivative that doesn't make people think that they're watching something around carnivore, because I don't want to mislead anybody into thinking that the results that I get or don't get are associated with carnivore. Again, pretty happy with the results that I got, but there are some concerns, and so because of that, I'm going to move on to something else. I wish everybody that continues down the carnivore path much success. And if there's anything that I can answer for someone, if you want to ask a question in the comment or send me an email directly one-on-one at myretirementramblings@gmail.com, I'm happy to answer the question for you. And again, Appreciate you following me up to this point. I appreciate the comments and the kind of the attaboys that you guys have given me throughout the 6-month journey on carnivore. So hopefully you'll follow along with me as I transition to this other, still animal-based lifestyle, but it won't be carnivore. So again, thanks for watching. Appreciate you following me, and again, the comments that you leave have really been helpful. Thanks so much. Take care.